Hello everyone, today I'm going to go over my Techie Toys jumping spider and how it broke and also how I fixed it. I'm also going to go over some tips and tricks to help keep your jumping spider running and so it doesn't break in the catastrophic way mine did. So without further ado, let's get started. So I got this jumping spider on the 3rd of November and this jumping spider was great. It wasn't delayed, it was loud, which is I'm a little bit in the middle of. I wish they had volume control because they are very noisy. It was loud, and most importantly, it worked very well. Like all the new jumping spiders, the springs were a little bit weak, so I did bend them forward, which you can do that by pushing forward the springs. Some people say you take it out. You don't really have to take them out. You can just bend them in their spot, and that worked. Well, that worked just fine for me. But you've got to be very careful doing that because it can snap. So, back to the story. I got this on November the 3rd, and it was great. I was using this thing all the time, and I think it lasted between two to 3 months. No, it actually just lasted. Wait, it did last 2 months, and the funny thing is, this was on Christmas Eve as well. So I was just pressing the button, watching it go up and down on Christmas, and I had the dumbest thought ever. I thought to myself, gee, what would happen if I held down the back? So when you activate a jumping spider, it leaps forward, and so I thought, what would happen if I just held it and it stalled it so it couldn't go down? So normally this would stall a belt or something like this, but because the gearbox makes the retraction mechanism so strong, it means it doesn't go through all the way to the spring. It just snaps the central gear. So there's a central half gear that pulls it down. It's just half of a gear, and when it reaches the bottom, it can just let go. It's really simple, and all it needs is a relay switch, some good timing, and a half gear. So it's really simple, and I can't recommend Techie for that, because it means you don't need 2 motors and it keeps it cheap. So I held it down and this thing just snapped in half, and this was really sad for me because not only was it my second prop, it was my only jump scare prop. And if you live in the UK like I do, and you do haunting in the UK like I do, then you'll know that your props it's hard to access jump scare props for a cheap price, and this is only one under £100, which is kind of my budget back then. Now I'm willing to spend a little bit more, but still, it's still expensive for a Halloween decoration. So this thing had just broke, and so I go inside it to see what's up. And now I have no experience repairing jump scare props. I've watched a couple Jeremy Master animatronic videos, but they never really explain how to fix a Techie prop. And so I loaded up some random video on YouTube about how to fix split gear, although it was for a Jeremy prop, so that video was completely useless. Like, that's not going to work. And so I look inside it and I find this whole gear is split. So I kind of push the axle to the side and I take out what's left of the gear, and I try to glue it back together and put it back on the shaft. And of course that fails. It's either because I put the orientation of the gear wrong, which if you're trying to repair it now, just know that what you want to do is you want to have the square shaft gear, the side of the gears facing away from the cam that hits the relay switch. That's the orientation you want the gear. So I obviously must have got it orientated wrong. Either that or the super glue just wasn't strong enough. Or I hadn't let it set. Yeah, I'm presuming I didn't let it set because I just wanted it fixed right away. And so it just snapped, and then I was like, okay, this is going in storage, I'm going to keep this for later, and I'm just going to get a new one. So I reached out to Halloween Costumes, which is where I bought it from, and I said, hey, can I have a refund? And they were like, sure, you can keep the spider, which was really good of them, because it wouldn't have let me get it fixed. So I got a full refund, and with that refund money, I bought another jumping spider. Now, this jumping spider is behind me, and so I can't really show it because my phone is on a stand. But this jumping spider just like the other one, like I noticed a couple of differences. Like the jumping spider had like different, like just different LED eye positions, a different sensor position, and different pincer positions. But that was really it. Like it's basically identical. And so, I kid you not, I used this for like a couple hours when my stupid brain decided that, what about if I pull back the mechanism, not while it's retracting or anything, just ever so slightly. So I just pulled it back when it was in the up position, and the gear grabbed on, and it must have not grabbed on correctly, or like the mechanism was in the wrong place, so it just split the gear in half. Like, I didn't even try that time, which was really disappointing. So again, we got a full refund, and we didn't even bother repairing it, because we already had one that was in parts, which was this one. And so and then I got the pop-up ghost, which didn't work either. So it's really left me a really bad taste from Halloween costumes. But I've learned that the pop-up ghost wasn't really their fault. It's just a bad design from aroma standpoint. So I have now got 2 broken jumping spiders. They're all living in my wardrobe, taking up space. And so roll around July, August of 2023. And then I'm like, okay, I've got these 2 broken jumping spiders, and I'm like, what on earth do I do with these? So I take the one that was not in parts out the box, and I take out this one here as well, just to look at for reference. And I've now got a 3D printer. I picked up a 3D printer, and so I'm like, maybe I could 3D print a design for this. So I Google up 3D printed square shaft gear jumping spider, and it returned some results. And mainly there's a forum page for like a lunging lily gear replica, where this guy's asking if he's got the correct amount of teeth on his gear that he's modelled for his broken lunging lily. And he's like, and then I say, and then it's correct. It's like, it fits the jumping spider, it fits his. And so someone earlier had asked for the file, and so I just downloaded it. So it was a link. I 3D printed it out. I did scale it up a tiny bit just to make sure it would fit. And I used this guy to test it on, and it fitted. So I then took it to my other jumping spider and I put it in that one. And now this one was very tight, and so it was a very, very, very tight fit. So we kind of had to melt it on. I know this sounds really odd, but I used my old 3D pen to kind of melt it onto the bar, and it worked. And it fixed my jumping spider. And then I set my sights onto the jumping spider you see in front of you. Now this one was in parts, so I decided, you know what, I'm gonna take it apart and I'm gonna fix this one too. So I put the majority of things back together, and I did the same fix I did for the other jumping spider. Now I thought I lost half the screws, but it turns out they were just in the box. So thank you for younger me for doing that, I guess. So I put on this gear, but I scaled it up in the slicer, which meant that it's really wobbly, which means this one's a really delayed jump. I mean, it would have been delayed anyway, which I'll talk about in a minute, because there was a hitch. The file, the person who modelled it didn't quite model it just right. But still, I mean, it works. So that was good. But the relay switch, when we took off the relay switch originally, I don't know why I did, but in the process of doing that, the wires came off. So it meant I just kind of wrapped it round the cable connector, because I didn't know how to solder it just then, which was really annoying, because it would have been a really easy fix. So I wrapped this around the cable point, and off it went. So I've now got a working jumping spider, which is really good. Another working jumping spider. But then I realised that why the jump is so delayed, because the person who modelled it, they made it for lunging lily, and if you've seen the original lunging lily, the lunging lilies are really slow at jumping, or it takes a while to release. I don't understand why Techie did that, because surely you want your animatronic to not be going for a minute before it actually jumps. it just didn't seem like the greatest design choice. So regardless, it was now working, maybe a little bit slow, but it still worked. It's a jumping spider. So it was great. I'd now got my jumping spider working, and there was no back to scaring people again. And so that really concludes the story now. So he's still working to this day. Everything's running very well. I am kind of thinking about changing out a gear to the one. Well, I've kind of moved the square shaft hole, so that way it's not as delayed. But I really don't want to go back in. I mean, I think that if it works, there's no point in going back in. So, without further ado, I guess I'll demo him. Right, now let's talk about the tips and tricks you can use to keep your jumping spider running and jumping. So the first tip is the placement of your weights. Now you can see how I've piled rocks on books by both feet. You want to do that. Don't place it on the back or front, it just doesn't work. Particularly the back. Like, I said earlier about snapping the square shaft. If the rock is sitting directly underneath that thing and it doesn't have room to move, you're doing the same as me as stalling it, and that's just going to snap it, and that's the end of your jumping spider, I guess. So be careful with the way you stall it. Unless yours is older and the belt's weaker, I'd say at that point you probably don't have to worry, but if you've got a new jumping spider that's mostly unused, then you're probably going to need to think about the way you weight yours down. So let's also talk about the belt. Yeah, you'll need your belt tight. Like, you need to check that every so often to make sure it's tight, and obviously it won't move if it's not tight. So if it stopped moving, don't immediately panic about your square shaft. The first thing you should check is your belt. So let's also talk about springs. Lots of people say leave it in the up position. Don't leave it in the up position or the down position. They're just going to get weak either way. Just take them off. Like, what I do is I leave it in the up position when I'm not using it. Like, say I'm using it today and then I'm using it again tomorrow. Overnight I'll leave it in the up position. But if I'm going on holiday for a while, then I'll leave it in the down position. I'll take the springs off and then it will collapse down into the down position. So just take the springs off. It's going to increase the longevity, and it's just going to make your jumping spider last so much longer. Because you might notice that it's tensioned when it's in the up position as well. A spring's also snapped on this one, so be careful about that. Always leave the covers on to the spring, otherwise if it's lopsided, it's going to snap the spring, which means that half this thing's kind of being lifted up by elastic bands, which makes it a little bit faster, but it's not the most elegant solution when you go under the hood. So I think that's everything I have to say for now. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.